and what went through his mind when he saw the Russian jet going down.
Well, my first reaction, of course, was concern for the crew. It doesn't really matter what nationality they were. When you hear that a fellow aviator has been shot down, your mind certainly turns to that. I mean, it's certainly at times like this my concerns for the crew, no doubt about it.
How do you think it will impact on the Prime Minister's desire to use RAF planes to fight in Syria, to drop bombs over IS?
I think that what this incident shows is the real chaos and the real confusion of the whole situation. I think sometimes politicians like to paint these things in black and white. And the reality is that it's a shade of grey, a myriad shades of grey in actual fact. And this incident demonstrates that so well. So you have the Russians who are saying that in actual fact they're attacking IS and attacking terrorist targets. Well, they are, but what they're actually doing is trying to prop up President Assad because he's their proxy in the region. They're defending his territory. And you must remember that 2 years ago, the Prime Minister was trying to get a vote to attack President Assad. And if we'd have attacked President Assad back then, we would have been ergo fighting alongside groups like IS. And now we've done a complete 180-degree U-turn, and we're talking about in actual fact, fighting alongside President Assad, fighting alongside the Russians to try to defeat IS. And IS clearly is one of the main opposition groups to President Assad. And it is those sort of things that demonstrate so clearly what a chaotic and confused situation this is. And we enter it without understanding it at our peril.
Chaotic, confusing it certainly is, John, but we've seen horrendous attacks on one of our very closest allies in France, the terror attacks in Paris, of course. Can we really stand by and not get more involved in the situation?
Well, look, you have to remember that the RAF is already involved. Our special forces on the ground are already involved.
But what in Syria, in Syria, as you know, the Prime Minister wants to do.
Sure, of course I know, but in many ways, militarily, the Royal Air Force's contribution will be minimal. That is not to degenerate the bravery and professionalism of the crews, but 6 tornadoes based in Cyprus is not going to make a massive difference. Again, remember, the Americans, the French, the British, and many other forces have been bombing in Syria and Iraq for, 18 months now? And so simply shifting our focus by 300 or 400 miles is not going to make militarily a massive difference. Politically, I accept that it is a gesture of standing shoulder to shoulder with friends. But you've got to ask yourself the question, what will we achieve? And sometimes I think that there's a rush to do something. We must do something. And sometimes doing something is not the right thing. We were told in Iraq in 2003, we must do something about Saddam Hussein. He was a threat to the region, and we know how that turned out. We were told about Afghanistan in 2001 and the Taliban. We must do something, and we know how that turned out. Al-Qaeda, we must do something, and we're still fighting Al-Qaeda 13, 14 years on. In the last 20 years, history has shown us that if we enter into the fray without really thinking about what we're trying to achieve, really thinking about an endgame, and really thinking about the law of unintended consequences, which always happens, we enter into the fray without thinking about that at our peril. We really do.
John, in spelling out how doing something has had unintended consequences several times, it begs one final question then. Should we simply do nothing?
But we are doing something, but in reality, those 6 tornadoes are having a minimal effect. What it really needs, and nobody can really argue about this, if we are certain that defeating ISIS is the one aim that we have, then it can only be done with fighting on the ground. And that cannot be, that will not be, because of our previous adventures, that will not be British and American troops. That has got to be a regional problem. It's a regional problem, and it needs regional forces to solve it.